another episode of Yoga Biz Champ, and I have got my third time returning bestie friend, Kristine Irving. Coach KI was on my very first episode. Kristine.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited.
This is your third appearance here, and some people might know this about you, some may not, but you started as a yoga student of mine when I had a studio. You had a fellow business in a retail store in our small town. You were a business coach to my studio. You are now a life coach, hypnotherapist, life changer, and one of the most curiously engaged people I know, and a multi-year dear best friend to me. So Kristine Irving, Coach KI. Hey, honey.
Thank you, Michael. Hello.
My first question is, why have you stuck around so long?
I know.
We have never lost connection. We've
No.
always one of us reaches out. Like when it's
Yeah.
time, it's like there's one of us always reaches out, whether it's long distance or in person.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because I value our friendship so much. That's why. Yeah, it's at the top.
Thank you. Thank you. And when I wrote that little intro to you, when I say one of the most curious people I know.
To a fault, you mean?
When you're having a conversation with Kristine, let's just say she's very present. You cannot drift off. Like she is engaged with your eyeballs, and she truly wants to know about you.
I do. It is so true. Yeah, I know.
It's just that you're just like, tell me more, tell me everything. Like you are just that person.
Yeah. How could I not do what I do? That's what I look at it, how I look at it. That's it. It's just, I had to figure out how to do this for the rest of my life every day.
Yeah. And honestly, I think this is timely. So what we're talking about today, I have to confess, I know nothing about. So we're going to I'll let you introduce this concept, the invisible workload formula. And I'm not female or any type of gender actually could probably associate with this, but I'm assuming that there's typically somebody that is a she, her quite often in this kind of role. And so I don't understand being in that role. And so I want to hear everything from you. But what I do have an understanding is in my working with, and this has been a common theme actually on all the episodes this season, is the overwhelmed yoga studio owner that is trying to do it all. They're either launching or they're growing the business, but then there's also family, kids, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I know that this has been is coming up a lot for me. And the mental health stuff is coming up a lot for me too. My studio owners, they share where they're at emotionally, and I do too. And we have that kind of beautiful common bond. But this has been coming up very frequently. And so I think this is super timely because this is your world right now. We're immersed in this space. So yeah, tell me how these amazing people can come through this overwhelm. And
I think you're going to relate to a lot of what we talk about today. I think everybody does. You're right. Typically, when we talk about invisible workload, it's been typically women in a heterosexual relationship. When we think of that, we think of that heavy mental load of shouldering the lion's share, likely all of those things that have to do with making your household run smoothly, making sure everybody is nurtured and cared for, all of that. That's typically what invisible workload has looked like. But I think we're expanding this into all sorts of areas now, especially with business owners. So talking to your studio owners, and I can tell you this is something, the reason I'm so wildly passionate about this is this has been probably my number one struggle for my entire adult life. And I actually even looked before my adult life, and I think I was shouldering a lot of the mental load in certain areas. I think.
But were you aware of it during adult life?
No, these words have never been said to me. Invisible workload. What's that? I just knew I was mad at my husband all the time. And I just didn't know why.
Poor J.I.
Poor J.I. I know, man, he's been a guinea pig in this. So I'm shout out J.I. Yay to you. So it has been really difficult, but I can tell you when when it really amped up, Michael, was when I was running my stores. So like you mentioned, we had businesses together in the same community, and I had a couple of retail stores for 20 years. And for all of you studio owners, I know what's happening to you at 3 a.m. I'm in bed with you. I understand. I get it. I can just hear your mind going, oh my God, I got to remember to do that and do this and do that. It's that mental load. It's generally the things that come up in the middle of the night that keep you awake, that you're afraid you're going to forget to do, all that kind of stuff. It's the things that are not visible. It's exactly what it says. It's the invisible workload. So what was happening is all day at work, I was shouldering it because a big part, and we'll get more into this in a little bit, I hope, but it's that I just felt it was all my responsibility. And when you own a business, it is all your responsibility.
Well, it is, yeah.
It sure is. So you really, not only are you feeling it, it's the truth. I question every belief. It's my favorite thing to do. And my question is always, is that true? And I think that I always believed that it was. I'm starting to question if that's true. If running your business is all your responsibility, it's actually, in my opinion, total bullshit. It is not. It is the team that we create, and there's so many responsibilities that we can delegate and that we can trust in the people that we hire. That's why that process is so important.
That community, the
community, you talk about community all the time, Michael. I know how important that is, and your team. So I didn't know that then, man. Ugh. If I did, but I felt it was all on me. So I went from my day at work shouldering absolutely everything, thinking I had to keep my eye on everything. So that mental load is very cognitive. It's that like kind of the invisible tasks. I got to do this, remember this, schedule this, plan this, check on it. Oh my God, constantly, was it done? Did it get done right? That there's also something which I won't go into today. That's another podcast, maybe next season. But the emotional load, which is that one's more about regulating emotional responses to things. So that's making sure that everybody's happy and everybody's cared for. And you see the person who's maybe not doing so well, and you spend that extra time thinking about how to help them. And so there's all of these. Can you feel your shoulders heavy already? Like it's just such a load. Then you go home. And then you go home and you have got to figure out all the stuff. If you have kids, it's a whole other ball game. Even dogs, okay? I've got a couple dogs. They are a lot. And so they are. I also had a child, by the way. I had my son while I was going through all this as well. So you go home and now you've got the dinner that you're thinking about, and you're not just making the dinner. It's not just the physical, visible task. It's that you had to think about what you're going to get.
All the
you had
things
to go
for
do the shopping.
it.
You had to
timing.
do it. Timing. People think it's just the meal on the table. That is not it. And when
then you add on sports and commitments.
Oh my goodness. Doctor's appointments exactly. It's so much. And no wonder. Again, I'm going to generalize a little just for the sake of this conversation. But again, that no wonder women are getting sicker and sicker. We are finding out that all sorts of stress-related diseases are on the rise, autoimmune conditions, cardiovascular conditions, or cancers, all on the rise for women. And it's no surprise because many years ago, this paradigm probably worked, right? Hunter-gatherer out getting food, woman at home taking care of the house. That has changed. We are studio owners now. We are business owners. We are out there and we're coming home.
We're the marketing person. We're the salesperson. We're the team lead.
You've got it. All of it. We are making the bacon. We're frying it up in the pan, we're feeding it, we're doing all the things. We're remembering to get the bacon, we're remembering all the stuff. So we have all of this stuff on our shoulders. So it's really a big problem. And point to my chair here where my clients sit, and I cannot tell you how many are sitting in that chair talking to me about what's happening, the overwhelm, the stress that they're feeling in their lives. And over the last couple of years, this invisible workload thing will not leave my brain. And when something like that happens, I know I have to keep going. So I'll just tell you one little thing, because it's interesting how it all has come full circle for me, which was about a year ago, I created a program for people to deal with the invisible workload. And it's a solid program, great steps, research done. I'm really proud of it. And then no one did it. It was just like a hilarious plot. And I'm saying to my people, I created this for you. It's free. Take it. And they would just look at me and say, oh, I just can't even read it. Like, it's too much.
Another task.
That's what they said. Now I got to figure it out for him. I've got to figure all this out. And I could feel the overwhelm. And I was struggling with that. So I put it on the back burner for a bit. And let's remember, I'm in this with you. I'm doing this too. I'm feeling this. It's why I'm so passionate about it. Come December, I got hit for the next 2 months with I'm going to say a level of depression. That's exactly what it was. I'll label it for what it was. And I didn't even recognize myself. I was feeling all of this stuff. I was so angry at my husband all the time and the world at large that I had all this stuff going on. And no one could see it. It was invisible, and I wasn't sleeping, and I ended up getting really sick. And I hadn't been sick. Remember, I was bragging that I hadn't been sick in so long because I was really looking after my mental health for so many years. And I ended up getting really sick. So I now started to think about it, and I realized I was missing something so crucial to this program. And that's really what I wanted to share, and I think would be super helpful for people listening. And it's like going right back to square one, what I do with my clients about almost any issue, which is find the emotion that's underneath. What's happening? What's happening? How are we feeling? You were just about to say it, root cause. Yes. And then once we determine what those emotions are, we can determine what the root cause is. And then we can look at this kind of, if anybody's familiar with cognitive behavioral therapy, there's this paradigm that's used, this loop that's used where it's your thoughts lead to your emotions, which lead to your actions. So it's like when I think that thought or believe that belief, I feel all these things and then I act this certain way, right?
Yep.
So that was the missing piece. So do you want to put up that thing that I sent you?
We'll put something in the show notes where people can get this from you.
Oh, perfect. Wonderful. So you can just ignore all the wording at the top. I want you to just look at the Venn diagram. I love a good Venn diagram, right? Like I use this all the time.
So you're going to have to describe the diagram, Kristine.
I'm going to. So Venn diagram, for those that don't know what that is, so we're looking here at these 3 circles, which represent cells that have similar things inside of each of them. And then there's this area that crosses over all 3 in the middle. And that's called the intersection. And that's what they all have in common. So I did this myself. Honestly, I wish you could have seen my process of doing this, Michael. I was in a state. I was thinking my own tools were not working on me. What is going on? So I dug deep and I really looked at the emotions that were coming up. And what I'm learning is that these emotions are very common. So tell me if this relates at all at any time where you have felt like the overwhelm of this mental load. What does that feel like? One of the emotions is, of course, overwhelm. So that's really, for me, the primary emotion that comes up in this area. But there's offshoots, and you can see those other words that I've popped in there, and that can feel for different people, like feeling exhausted, anxious, burnt out, cranky, and most of all, that I am responsible for it all. It's all on me. The responsibility is mine. And then another emotion that comes up, which is the one that you hear the most, is anger, right? I'm angry and resentful at my partner, whether that's at home or in business or wherever you're maybe relating to what I'm talking about. It's that anger and resentment. That's always the primary emotion that seems to come up, isn't it? We always like to look a little deeper to anger, but that might feel like impatience, frustrated, even contempt. You start to just have this feeling of contempt. I have felt that. Again, poor JI, my poor husband. And then I knew I couldn't. And then as I did that and I got it all out and I was brainstorming it, then I started to feel unbelievably sad. And I was really getting at what that feeling was. And the emotion that came up for me there was loneliness. And it was that I felt like I wasn't supported. Again, back to being all on my own here, but it was a real feeling of sadness, grief over what I thought it would look like. I don't think anybody goes into like marriage or a business and thinks it's going to all be on me. I'm going to be staying up at 3 a.m. thinking about every single thing that has to get done. So I had to grieve that.
And I think loneliness can also be not being heard.
Oh,
Simple, right?
totally.
Your other
Absolutely.
words there are grief, sad, depressed, helpless.
Yes. Not being heard. Because in that anger, likely you have been very loudly expressing what it is that you need, and nothing changes. Nothing changes. So as we feel all these emotions, and I want to encourage people that are listening to this to think about what your emotions are. Are they similar to what I have felt? Do you feel like you fit into this? Or maybe you do your own Venn diagram and you come up with your own emotions.
What I like about this is the way you visualize it. It's not linear. When I think about
Yeah.
linear, that could be like, okay, the trigger, and then we go into anxiety, and then maybe into a loop thought pattern, and then into depression, right? You're
Yeah.
looking at this as anger, overwhelm, loneliness, all creates a feeling of
Yeah.
powerless. And they
Such
would
a
be
good
all at
point.
different
Yeah.
degrees, right?
Yep. Because when we have to choose just one, I'll tell you, if we have to choose just one, most of us are going to choose anger. And then we're really going to miss it. We're going to miss how we can help ourselves through this, is what we're
What do
going
you
to
mean by
miss.
choose? To choose?
Well, if you were to say more linear, if you had to say, what am I feeling? What does that lead to?
The
It's
feeling,
like,
that is the
yeah,
feeling, but it's probably not the trigger, right? The anger is probably a result of.
that's right. There's the trigger, the circumstance or trigger, like you called it, that comes up can be so many different things, can't it? If you think about what could be a trigger, it could be something. One big trigger is when somebody says to someone who carries the mental load, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Or you just have to ask.
Because you actually have to do it.
Oh
By
my
saying it, you've got to
goodness.
go through. Yeah.
Yes. And then isn't it just easier to do it yourself? That's
Well,
what you find. And you do.
yeah,
So this
yeah,
loop continues. And this
yeah.
is why here we are thousands of years later, still in the same bloody paradigm,
Can
right?
you tell me examples of people feeling powerless?
Yeah. So on that note, so then what you probably are referring to is what is
So
the core belief? What's at
yeah.
the intersection of all three? And it is the feeling, the belief rather, the belief, the thought that I am powerless no matter what I do. So in answer to your question, then it's like that, some examples of that are feeling very deflated. You've maybe even gone to the trouble of trying to communicate with your partner some of these emotions, and then nothing changes. So you think no matter what I do, maybe you've come and talked to Kristine and she's giving you a bunch of tips, or maybe you went on and tried to follow my initial attempt at my program. Attempt 2 is going to be really great. But maybe you've done that and nothing has changed and you feel powerless. And then so when I feel powerless, I feel like I'll use a heavier example, but I'm all good now. So it's a good one to use. But when I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, I felt super powerless, right? I didn't know really what was going on. I was so used to being Coach KI.
You had to give up your
And
power to the doctors.
oh my, exactly. And then they were not saying the same things, and it was very confusing. And I felt all of these emotions at different degrees. I felt all of those emotions. And then what we want to really look at is when we feel that we're powerless and we can't make a change or a difference or anything in our life, nothing works. And we feel all of these emotions. So back to that cognitive behavioral loop, right? I think this thought, I'm totally powerless. I feel all these anger, overwhelm, loneliness kind of emotions. How do I show up? So if you think about times at home or in your business, if you can relate to any of these, like even let's just look at anger. You're feeling angry. How do you think you show up? Maybe use business as an example, Michael. Like if you're feeling angry, how do you think you would show up for your clients, for your staff, for your instructors? How would you show up?
For me, it's hard. I'd probably be pretty quiet.
So you retract, maybe.
I would definitely, for me,
Retreat.
I would definitely retract and be all in my head
Okay.
and not present. Yeah.
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 Right here. Heart's not there. Yeah. So that Exactly. And we all handle these emotions differently, right? It can show up different ways. For some people, it's super edgy, being snappy. If they're feeling that anger, sometimes they're just even physical, right? Like I know for me, I get an immediate headache when I'm angry. Like it's immediate, like right there.
I clench my fists.
There you
physically.
go. So it's just, and how good is that for us? The yogis of the world can
goes
tell
all
us,
the way up to the
not
neck.
good, you got it. So it's like all of that. And maybe we even say things that we wouldn't normally. You lash out a little bit and then it's, oh my God. And then by the way, total loop. Now you're up at night thinking, how am I going to repair that? I snapped at my instructor or something like that. So anger. So we want to look at the behaviors. Like these are the actions that are coming out. When you look at something like overwhelm, that's more like, oof, right? That's more
shut down.
Oh, it's all like boom, just feel your shoulders like being pressure. It is all on me, that responsibility, that stress. And then if it's happening at home and you're feeling overwhelmed, who's going to want to do social things? Who's going to want to do something fun? Who's going to want to ever do that? Take on a new hobby or a new project? No way. When I am talking to my clients that are in this state of overwhelm, and they want to bring, maybe they realize they need more joy in their life, and we start to talk about ideas, I see them just going like how they did with the program. Too much. I can't take on more. I am up to here. So there's that feeling of overwhelm. And then the last one, which is if you're feeling lonely, how do you show up? Like, how do I then show up in my world? Like, and again, loneliness, having that feeling that I'm not supported by anyone. Like I'm an island on my own.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be not being around people, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So then sometimes what happens there is you get that heavy, that's another kind of a heaviness in your body that can be more of a depressed feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see that even with the studio owners. I say this a lot. Studio ownership can be a lonely world because nobody else understands this crazy, weird world of ours. It's that we're responsible for making students happy, teachers happy, getting things right. It's a lot.
And keeping the lights on, by the way. So then I've also got that going. That's not even financial pressure alone when we're running a business like that, or any business.
Hey Yoga Biz Champs or wannabe Yoga Biz Champs, I am going to jump in here and direct you to my new website, which is yogabizchamp.com/podlink. And I'm going to highlight today, I have two packages. One is a starter studio coaching package, and the other one is a grower studio coaching package. So today I'm just going to talk about the grow one because Kristine's talking about all these burdens. And what I know is with my grower yoga studio package, and if you listen to the episode with Lisa from Tucson Yoga Pod, is this package is really designed to take a load off of your shoulders. So it's getting organized. So in the first 2 months, months 1 and 2, we do a real business x-ray of your studio. And then from that, we develop an action plan. So we kickstart the journey with thorough evaluation, and strategic overhaul of your studio's business model and operations. We look at the nuts and bolts of your current setup and identify key areas to enhance. This stage is all about practical solutions and a clear action plan. Once we've got all that investigation done, then we come to the action plan where we implement it and we really optimize operations and procedures and train the staff and go over all of your marketing, your automations, your website, everything, the whole works. We get everybody on board in the same direction and make sure not everything is sitting on the studio owner's shoulders. Then the final month in our 6-month journey, we do a studio health check. We do a performance assessment and strategic forecasting based on everything we've put into place. So if you've got any desire to find any information about working with me, making your yoga studio a little bit more streamlined, or if you're wanting to open a studio with my starter studio package, head over to yogabizchamp.com/podlink and go over to my services and book a free, no obligation chat with me. Back to Kristine.
How can we help ourselves in these? Because one thing with loneliness is we do feel disconnected. That is that disconnect. And most of us have gone into our businesses most businesses, not all, of course, but have an element of bringing people together, don't they? Like it's about connection. And here you are feeling lonely and disconnected. It's super, super tough.
Yeah.
It feels like cognitive dissonance. I believe this one thing, but I'm doing this other thing.
And on the last podcast, Jill Agonius, a wonderful, inspirational young woman that just sold her studio for 30% over asking. And yeah,
love that.
Amazing person. But she was talking about that same thing, about that, it's that loneliness.
Yeah. Yeah. So you imagine when you have this storm of all of these things going on, and it's just, what the hell do we do now? Like, where do we even start? It can feel really like such an uphill climb, and it can feel really difficult.
So when you work with your clients on this, how does them being aware of their root causes, their triggers, their overwhelm, and I think being aware of the invisible workload, I think that's step one in any therapy, right? It's like the awareness, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yes.
But so how does that manifest, that awareness? How does that manifest afterwards? How are you seeing that change?
Sure. Like how it is. How do they get help? You mean like how do we?
Yeah.
So you're so right about the awareness. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm becoming more and more vocal about this invisible workload, because I've seen it as something that people sometimes don't want to talk about. I'm not a real fun person to have at a party right now because
doing a little research at parties, are you?
Yeah, my male friends are not very happy with me these days. So it is, and even a lot of the women, because it's
they're washing the dishes more, I bet.
Yes, everyone's a bit on edge, right? It's one of these topics that isn't really,
it's shaking it up.
It's shaking it up. And I'm excited about talking about it because I do believe so strongly there's a solution to this. And I do think starting by talking about it and realizing what's in it for all of us, if we can get beneath, we can understand what that root cause is. And let's just say, for argument's sake, that we do all share that feeling of, I'm powerless. There's nothing I can do. We want to look at that belief like I do in my work every day. That's what, I'm a hypnotherapist. That is exactly what I look at, is let's get to the core, let's get to the root belief, and let's rewire that belief. It doesn't, I'm sure everybody can probably figure out what rewiring I'm powerless would look like. And that would be that I am powerful, like that. Yeah. So right away, we have to start to look at whatever.
And you give them the tools to rewire. I know you
absolutely
do that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There's lots of different ways to do it. Of course, for me, it really is about doing this work that we've been talking about for the last, I don't know how long we've been talking, just time flies, but it is doing that work first, really understanding, going deeper even, where do I hold this emotion in my body? How do I release it? Movement, yoga, my favorite. I tell all my clients, like, move that emotion through
Change your life.
It changed my life. Yeah. First yoga class, I'm a bawling mess in my car on the way home, calling this Michael. I don't even know what happened to me. Anyways, so yes, but letting those emotions flow through you before taking the next step, which is then opening up communication. So that was that key missing step.
The integration.
Yep.
Yeah.
And being able to then go, okay, what do I really want at the end of this? I mean, anybody, I know you help your clients set goals and all of that. And I'm sure that's like number one question, or one of the top, is what do we want at the end of this? What are we striving? What are we working towards? And, for those of us in relationships, we want a strong, loving, equal partner. We want somebody that we can have fun with and be happy and joyful and have great sex and intimate, all those things. That's what this is about. It's a great way to
By the way, folks, Kristine and J.I. spontaneously dance in the kitchen.
We do. Just did it. Like, not today. I spontaneously danced this morning by myself. But yeah, we do it all the time. And that's a big part of it. But I'll tell you, if I felt completely overwhelmed that day and he didn't show up as my equal partner, I'm not really much up for dancing. Because I'm just not up for that. So this is about creating the environment that is, and I don't want to keep using sexual terms, but that is the foreplay. Like, that is the part that sets the foundation for a fun, loving relationship is if we can feel like we have an equal partner. So if we can talk to our partners, whether it be in business, and that's the same kind of idea, right? What is it that we want? What kind of environment, culture do we want? It's most people are going to say, I want to have this equal partnership. You don't want one person taking on the lion's share.
Because the support systems are important.
They're so important.
Yeah.
So important. So we have that discussion. So it really is starting to communicate a lot. Once we've done that, really, I think that's the crux of what you and I are talking about today. Of course, there's a lot of steps that kind of even come after that, which I can help anybody through. And if follow me, and I'm going to be talking about a lot of these things. But essentially, once we do that, we do start the process of divvying up tasks. That is important. People start there. That's the mistake, right? Don't start with that.
Don't start with the tasks.
No, I have on my website, I call it the list, where I've written every task I can possibly think of, because some people just think that's a big part of the work, is even just writing down all the things that have to be done. And in it, it's about thinking about things, thinking about ordering dog food, or like thinking about, that's a task. You've got to delegate. That gets to be one, by the way. And then you start to divvy that up. So that is a really important part of it. And then when we're doing that, we have to remember this is a bit of a trial period for a while. Our mind loves what's familiar, right? That means safety to us. So this is shaking stuff up. So if all of a sudden your spouse or your partner is doing a job that you normally do and maybe not doing it great, we need to have some grace for that. That's a really important part of this, to understand eye on the prize, man. We've got to be able to give each other some grace in this period where we're just learning. That's a really important part. And then we move into setting boundaries for ourselves, making sure that we don't step in and do that job that we've delegated. And think about business. Think about your studios right now for a moment. Are you already thinking that way?
Oh yeah, I was already.
Yeah, go for it. Tell me.
I was just thinking about all the things at the studio. It is overwhelmed for people, and I see the shutdown happen. That's what I see, and I think people having this understanding of all the little tiny little things, because even me, I'm not in that situation, but you know, I'm using Apple reminders all day long. Remind me to do this, remind me to do that, and at the end of the day I haven't done them all, and I've got this screen full of reminders that are just making me feel worse.
Yeah, totally. So imagine being able to say, who can I delegate some of this stuff to? Like, we start to look at our workload, right? And the team, and maybe even some items, what can I ditch? Like some things we actually can. I talk a lot about that. That's a Martha Beck, who I trained under for coaching. She uses the 3 Bs, right? Where you can barter it. So you can get somebody, which is what we're talking, get somebody else to do that, and you do this. You can barter it. You can batch it. So you do it with other things, so it's more efficient, and you can bag it. So you can choose some things that you need to bag. But really that delegation, and then being able to give that responsibility, that's the word here. Like responsibility.
With expectations and clear
Make
communication.
it really clear. You got it.
Yeah.
And then be able to hand it to that person. No one likes to be micromanaged, right? Once we've been given a job, we want to roll with it, but we also need back to giving a little grace. It's going to take a little time.
So it's empowering that team, but at the same time in personal life with a partner, you're going to be empowering, that too, right?
Totally. Like, I think this is about, like, when we use that term, and I love that you just used it a couple times about empowering, like this really is taking away, like really looking at that old lie, and that's what it is, that you are powerless. That is a lie. That is not a true belief. It's just a belief. Beliefs are not facts. And it is taking that lie and empowering yourself and those around you. How amazing, right? Now we all are feeling more powerful and more in a partnership, and that there isn't someone. What I know with every guy who's actually talked to me about this, and it's not very many yet, and I'm hoping to talk to more, but those that have been willing to share, they don't like this either. They don't want their partner taking all this on. They don't like seeing them tired and cranky and they don't
nitpicking. And,
and then that's when the naggy stuff starts to come, all those things, all those lovely terms start coming up. Yeah. So it really is more about understanding that sort of last step. I want everybody to hear these words, and it's repeat these to yourself on repeat. Not my responsibility, not my responsibility. Because once you have delegated, then you've got to say that. I actually, in my mind, have an image of scissors all the time. I use this a lot. Yeah. I feel like because I'm attached to all these things like a string, and I think of this balloon at the top with all my things that I'm responsible for, people I'm responsible for, all sorts of things. And I just start snipping.
Oh, I love that visual. And I feel like, even in my own life lately, I've been saying that a lot.
Yes.
It is not your responsibility. It's not your thing. Like, make your own party.
Not my circus, not my monkeys. I love that one. Anything along those lines, but it's very, so whatever works for you.
Maybe
but
we
they all
should do
mean
a t-shirt line.
Yes, totally. Yes, I love it actually. Can you put that on your list?
Anything
remember to get back to me on that.
Yoga Biz Champ. No. Oh, Coach K, you keep it real with life. Going through all these challenges of life, I'm talking about this a lot as well lately. We face these challenges, but we always grow from them and hopefully come out stronger on the other side. And I think the work that you're doing and your passion and your curiosity is just so important. And I'm going to encourage anybody interested in this work, or if they want to see the visual that she had today, or to book a chat with Kristine, it's coachki.com.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, you're amazing. Do you have anything else to say to these amazing human beings forging through the world, trying to make the world a better place?
I think just you are not responsible for everybody else. You are powerful beyond measure, to quote Marianne Williamson. You are powerful beyond measure. And even though this can look really overwhelming at first glance, it's really not. And it is nothing compared to the stress you are feeling right now.
Amen. Love you, Coach K.
Love you too, sweetie.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Yoga Biz Champ with myself, Michael J. Let's keep those yoga vibes flowing by following me on Instagram at Yoga Biz Champ for daily inspiration, exclusive content, and yoga marketing tips. Ready to take your studio to the next level, or looking to open your own yoga studio? Book a one-on-one chat with me, your Yoga Biz Champ, by going to yogabizchamp.com/podlink, and let's make some magic happen. Remember, folks, to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your preferred platform. Yes, you listening to me right now. I'm talking to you. Have you been binging my content? Is it making a difference? Are you getting inspiration? You've heard me ask for a glowing review and you've ignored me. It's time to stop ignoring me. It takes 1 minute and it makes the most massive difference to me. So if you have loved today's episode, head over there, leave a review, make sure you click the follow. Until next time, stay zen, keep spreading those good vibes. Namaste.